The sixth Dollhouse episode, Man on the Street, is a break from the formula. Previous episodes have been about Echo being victimized, Echo breaking free from a patriarchy and then being wiped again and remembering a small detail. Yeah, this episode is a break from that. This is when the Dollhouse series started to get good. Echo's not even in this episode very much. The episode begins with a series of Man on the Street interviews. Some TV show is putting on a thing where they're asking people what they think about the Dollhouse, should it even exist. There are a great variety of responses. Some people think it's awesome, some people think it's scary, some people want to be clients, some people want to be dolls. Others see it as slavery, human trafficking, or the end of human civilization. Given the content of Epitaph 1 and Epitaph 2, I'm thinking that Joss's own opinion is close to the last one. We start off with Ballard, who's tracking down the Dollhouse. Alpha has sent him a photo of Caroline, and he's interested in tracking down her specifically, to rescue her. Ballard figures out that this guy named Miner is a Dollhouse client. Miner is kind of like a Mark Zuckerberg kind of character. Miner has hired Echo to be his date, a romantic engagement, meaning that she is his wife in their fantasy. And he's just brought her to a new house, and the house is theirs, and they're going to have a romantic dinner and sex. Ballard party crashes. He tries to tell Echo that she's Caroline, but of course she's not receptive. Boyd runs in, grabs her, and takes her back to the Dollhouse. Miner and Ballard have a heart-to-heart. Miner talks about how Echo was imprinted to be his beloved wife. Miner's wife was killed a few years ago in a car crash, shortly before their romantic night. Miner hires the Dollhouse every year to complete that romantic night for him.
And then you sleep with her.
You feel sad for him. It's a sentimental kind of thing, but it is rape, prostitution, and it's portrayed negatively. Ballard points out the twistedness of it. Miner asks him, "What's your fantasy?" Ballard denies having a fantasy. Miner perceptively figures out that his fantasy is to rescue Caroline, and he'll be the White Knight to save the damsel in distress, and then she'll fall into his arms. A big thing with Dollhouse is moral ambiguity, and characters not being entirely good or entirely evil. And Ballard is basically the protagonist, but he's not entirely good. He's got this creepy side. The cops are coming and he lets Miner go. Ballard feels guilty, so he goes to his neighbor Melly. Melly is a traditionally feminine, submissive neighbor who's expressed an interest in Ballard, and he talks to her about the Dollhouse and his investigation. Little does he know that there's a camera that's in a vent and it's watching them. Meanwhile, at the Dollhouse, it's discovered that someone has been raping Sierra. Sierra, who has previously been shown to like Victor, expresses extreme fear when he approaches. While Boyd and Dr. Saunders investigate, Echo volunteers information that Sierra has been crying in the pods.
Victor wants to pretend.
Pretend?
He pretends we're married.
I see.
They interrogate Victor, and it's shown that he's still attracted to Sierra. All signs seem to point to Victor as the rapist. He finds a blind spot in the security cameras. He declares Victor the rapist, and Victor's taken away. Feeling good because he thinks he got away, Hearn decides to rape Sierra again. He's the rapist. And Boyd shows up and knocks him out. And Adele has Dominic tie him up and beat him a few times. I have to admire the way Adele shows absolute superiority over the situation. She is completely confident in front of him. Hearn makes a comment about what do you think would happen.
You put her under some fat old Amir. It makes it better because she thinks she's in love for all of a day. We're in the business of using people.
You understand less about this business than you think.
And you don't get how it actually works down there. You put a bunch of stone foxes with no willpower and no memory running around naked. Did you think this would never happen?
Adele doesn't think that the Dollhouse idea is inherently flawed, but she's the villain. We're not supposed to agree with her. Sometimes we're supposed to sympathize with her, but at this point we're not supposed to agree with her. The Dollhouse is a twisted establishment. The dolls are utterly dependent on the handlers, basically a breeding ground for abuse. And then Adele gives Hearn a mission. Melly knows too much, so go out there and eliminate her. You'll get to enjoy it because you're a misogynist. Meanwhile, she sends Echo out to kill Ballard. And Topher's goofing off a little, and then Boyd distracts him. So there's a bit of time before he gets back to the imprint. Time that someone could come in and tamper with the imprint if they so wanted. And Topher imprints Echo, and Echo goes out to kill Ballard. And they have this big fight scene, and finally Echo's in a position to kill him, but she doesn't. She instead gives Ballard a message from the dollhouse. Someone tampered with Topher's imprint, and made it so that Echo would be able to answer some questions and convey a message to Ballard.
Why are you telling me this?
We have a person inside.
I have to take down the dollhouse.
There are over 20 dollhouses in cities around the world. They have ties to every major political power on the planet. You cannot possibly stop them alone.
You're gonna help me?
The person that sent this message is.
Why?
The dollhouse deals in fantasy. That is their business, but that is not their purpose.
What is?
We need you to find out.
You know, when I watched this show originally, and I thought it was this feminist screed, I thought its primary purpose was patriarchy. As it turns out, that's not accurate, but this shows how much I was convinced that it was not just a feminist show, but a feminist screed. Echo makes it look like Ballard shoots a cop, so that he'll definitely get suspended, and she tells him to lie low after that, make the dollhouse think they won, but instead still investigate the dollhouse. Echo explains that someone else would be sent out to kill Melly, so Ballard races to save Melly. Hearn breaks into Melly's house and commences beating her up and just killing her in this horrifying way, and Ballard's racing to the rescue, but he'll be too late. It seems totally like Melly got Jossed. She's the lovable character that Joss kills, and it looks like it's going to be a woman in refrigerator kind of death, just to make Ballard feel angst. And then Melly gets a call.
There are 3 flowers in a vase. The 3rd flower is green. There are 3 flowers in a vase. The 3rd flower is yellow.
Okay, yeah, she's an active, but it's still female empowerment to a degree. Even though she's controlled, it is that she's controlled by Adele, so it's Adele killing Hearn through Melly, or by her doll name, November. It's still twisted, but you've got this female empowerment subverting a sexist cliche. Back at the dollhouse, Adele talks to Dominic, and Dominic points out that the actives are remembering things. Adele grudgingly acknowledges this, but says that they're working on it. But then Adele notices that Echo's drawing this house, and it's the house that Minor had, and she's drawn her and Minor outside of the house, and she says it isn't finished. She wants to finish the engagement. Adele is curious, and she agrees. So then we have this sweet, sentimental scene where Echo's joining Minor, and a lot of feminists don't like this scene. I don't know. Here's what Joss has to say about it.
Now we get to a very beautiful ending. But for me, morally, very tricky. In a way that I haven't heard many people talk about. Echo decides to go back and finish the engagement with Joel. Echo decides. This makes her complicit in what is going on. This is saying she wants to be with him.
It isn't finished.
And that is some very dicey territory. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. It felt like the right way to end this, because we'd given every opinion, and because there is a payoff for this somewhat sympathetic character, and watching her face when he gets to tell her that he's bought her this house and he's made good and all the things he dreamed of, it breaks my heart. But at the same time, politically, it's a very strange place to be. And the fact that we can do both at the same time is what scares me about this show, and is absolutely what makes it worth making.
Yeah, I think it's okay in this one instance, because Echo has some ability to choose, and she decides she wants to help this guy. This doesn't make the dollhouse moral in anything else it does, because in other cases, the actives can't consent. It's only okay in this instance because Echo is superior to the other dolls. In most instances, it's not okay.